Welcome to the Squared Circle Pit with your host, Rob Pasbani.
I'm here with Travis from Decapitation and Jim from PutrefactioN Management. And Jim, you forced Travis against his will to attend his first pro wrestling event, I hear, in Vegas last week.
It was more of a gift and a present that Travis did. Travis and I have been friends for like about 25 years, and since forever, heavy metal and pro wrestling, I've tried to get them together, going back to the ECW days, and which is how I met Jerry Lynn and a couple other folks. And no bands have ever been into it except for George Fisher. But even then, George was just like the biggest WWF fan. He's what they would call a mark, right? No offense, George. No bands have ever wanted to like do any cross promoting or anything. So as the years have gone by, I've tried to interject certain stuff, and even when Eric Rowan at the time wore that cattle shirt out to the ring, and I don't know if that many people know, but like he came out when he did his AEW and even his independent stuff, he came out to like remix versions of Finish Them, right? So it's not that Travis like, yeah, it's a great idea, but I was just trying to make stuff happen. So things just aligned in Vegas for that one night.
So yeah, what was your opinion of pro wrestling before last weekend? Like if someone came up to you a month ago and was like, what do you think about pro wrestling? Or growing up, what were your thoughts about it?
I had a ton of friends that were into it. I was in this band, a joke band. It was kind of like my second band ever. My first band was called White Lies, and it was just like this shitty local band. We did covers and played parties, birthday parties and shit. But then my second band was this band called the Razorbacks, and they were just really weird dudes. Like they were just really quirky and funny. And this guy Brian was, he was still to this day probably the biggest fan I've ever met. They had a little backyard wrestling league or whatever, it was like 4 of them. Jim, I'm not even sure if I've ever even told you about this.
Yeah, and this is new to me.
Yeah. So I fucking these dudes were fucking hilarious, and I wanted to. It was one of the very few times where I'm like, I want to be part of this, and I'm going to make myself be part of this kind of thing. So of course this is 1990 fucking, I don't know, 1 or 2 or so, probably something like that. I think I was a freshman in high school, and Jim has to mute his mic all the time because the dude, all he does is laugh. I wish he could be. He's like a professional laugher. So I was really into Carcass, my favorite band ever. Obviously, was one of my, especially back then, that was like my favorite band. So my name, my wrestler name was the Carcass.
Whoa! How long did it take you to come up with that one?
That was the thing. And my friend Brian made all sorts of fun of me. He was just like, the Carcass. I was like, yeah, dude, what's your finishing move? And I'm like, and it was just a rip off of the Tombstone. I got into it like the 5 seconds I was into it with my friends via the Undertaker. I was like, oh well, this dude's he's like the Angel of Death but wrestling or whatever it seemed like to me at the time, and that's kind of how it was put to me. So I just basically made some. I don't even remember. It was some, instead of like oh, he's facing this way, he faces the other. Maybe he was facing my crotch. Fuck, I don't even know. But like the move, I never really pulled it off. I was a skinny little twerp, and these dudes were like, one of them was 6 foot something, in I think sophomore year, and he's like 6 foot something, huge, massive dude, and it just didn't work. But they were super into it, and that was my first experience of experiencing people that were like that into it, where this dude took it like really seriously. And I realized, especially this last time we just went, that like I guess I always needed a degree of separation from like I need the separation of reality from fiction to be a little more defined.
I see.
I think that's what threw me off. It was just It's not that I think everybody that's into it are idiots or that I think the sport is stupid or anything like that. I just never understood it. I never could understand it is the thing. I don't know.
So you would watch with your friends growing up and it didn't grab you. Like when you say it didn't grab you, is it just like, oh, you can't suspend your disbelief in a way?
Yeah, easily. When I watch a movie, dude, I'm not really so much watching for the plot or whatever or any of that kind of shit. I'm watching the like how'd they get this shot, how'd they do this. I'm paying attention to how long the scene is. I was watching that movie 1917 last night, which was like, it's made to look like it's one gigantic long shot, but it was really like 35 or so shots. And that's the thing, is I sit there and I watch for how did they do this, how'd they do that, where'd they cut this part, and blah blah blah. So if anything, I was like looking at, I don't know, the stuff outside the ring, not so much what was going on in it. Like, I don't know.
Back in the 90s and the 80s, did you think any of it was, I'm not going to say real, because the term, throwing out the word real and fake, ends in a bad scenario. If you ever ask like a professional wrestler, if you ever say, oh, it's fake, but when you were younger, what did you think? Did you think that it was, oh, this isn't real, this is fake?
Yeah.
You figured it was all predetermined and everything?
Well, yeah. It's not?
Well,
I thought
I
still thought it was. I mean,
as a kid, you did?
Oh yeah. And the thing that always got me was like, well, like, hold on, guys, stop for a minute, stop rejoicing and freaking out for a minute, and tell me how does this work? Who figures out who's going to lose? That's the thing I can never understand.
The writer of the show.
So it's a third party?
Yeah, there's basically a guy running the ship, the showrunner, so to speak, to use the Hollywood terms. Yeah. And there's usually one person in the company with ultimate say on the match outcomes. And they're kind of the show lead, they're guiding the ship and they're creating the storylines. And to your point about watching a movie and watching it so analytically, I think this is why wrestling is exciting for a lot of people. I'm not saying it could be for you, but for me personally, everything that you said about how you watch a movie is also how I watch pro wrestling. Like to what we're talking about now, it's like, well, why did this match outcome happen this way? Where are they taking the storyline where the match had to end this way, where I just assumed based on how they're suggesting the beats of the story, this person should have won. And then you go online and there's a whole industry of backstage gossip, much like with music gossip.
Oh, totally.
Where they're just like, oh, well, this person, his contract is running up and they can't agree on a new deal. So they're just abandoning the storyline and he's losing to make him look bad because he's leaving for the other company. And that's when that's like this meta level of where it's not part of the on-screen storyline, but all the fans know that this is involved in the reason for these story beats. And then sometimes the lines are very blurred in what's happening backstage, what's the on-screen plot, which in wrestling is kind of referred to as kayfabe, where you're suggesting what's on screen is factual. So there is a lot of that in pro wrestling, but I will say though that requires a level of investment. That's. You're going to have to follow wrestling websites and wrestlers on social media where it's not as immediate as with movies.
Yeah. I was also always kind of confused at the fact that like everybody seemed to be on the same page but me.
In like knowing catchphrases and stuff, like knowing where the
no everything like what's going on in the ring and I'm not even so much talking about like backstories, but like even as it's happening, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I'm even trying to say. I
kind of get what you're saying. You feel like you've entered a cult meeting where you didn't get the pamphlet on what the phrases are.
Totally. Well, that, but also just like I'm the guy that with the wrecking ball that breaks down the fourth wall. I want to. That's the person I want to be. I want to know what's behind it.
Absolutely.
It's interesting because like you can say the same thing about I guess death metal or something or extreme metal or whatever. Sometimes I'm up there singing and I'm like, why are people paying attention to this? I'm banging my head. Why am I banging my head right now Well, I know why I am. It's so I can hide from the crowd. I don't like to really. I don't like to talk to the crowd much or really do too much. So I hide behind my hair, and I'm sitting here like going, "What are we doing? Why are people? Why are we doing all this stuff?" And I can only imagine that wrestlers might go through that constantly. Or, I mean, I was doing it as a fan when we were sitting there watching this stuff, or as a spectator, I should say, watching the stuff. I don't know. With me, there's like a disconnect between it. I find reality so much goddamn more interesting than fiction. It's funny. I'm sitting here saying, yeah, you can't blur the lines. I need it to be very distinct. But then again, look at Terrasite. Look at Death Atlas. Look at our records, like Monolith of Inhumanity and Anthropocene and what's going on in those covers and all that stuff. Very much the lines are blurred between reality and fantasy on those two. Extremely. It's an excellent example of reality and
like you could say your iconic video for forced gender reassignment, that's just deathmatch pro wrestling. There's a whole subgenre of pro wrestling where it's just
now that shit kinda. You want to talk about the okay, I remember, I still have it. I still have this fucking VHS tape. It's one of the very few that I still have from the 90s. My friend was all into tape trading, and he was a aspiring like horror director, and he did like the sets for Skinny Puppy's Too Dark Park Last Rites tour, that kind of shit. Nice. And we were in high school. This dude was doing this shit. He got all sorts. I mean, I watched snuff films with him. I've seen the worst things a human can witness. This is back in 30 something years ago. Anyways,
before the internet.
Yeah. He gave me. I got this Japanese deathmatch wrestling video from him. Now that was cool. A tank filled with piranhas, and they put this dude's bleeding arm in it, and or a bunch of scorpions in a tank, and or just it was the first place I guess I saw where they put out tacks or shards of glass, and these dudes are just, I mean, there's blood everywhere, and that to me I thought was extremely interesting. But I was also a angsty teen, and you know how that goes. So,
well, there was
I don't know how I would watch it nowadays. I'm not too much, kind of don't give a shit anymore about. I'm very desensitized, or I was, and I think it's manifested later on in life as something totally else. Maybe, I'm just getting old, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, when you watch it for 30 years, it doesn't have the same effect.
Yeah. Like when the Forced Gender video came out, I was just like, shut up. Like, you guys are a bunch of wimps. This is absolutely nothing. And I think just the reason why that was so shocking was because you put death metal or extreme music to a visual of some horrific act happening, and all of a sudden it's the glorification of that act instead of just fly on the wall watching something terrible go down.
Well, let's talk about the event. So you show, what is your first impression when you walk through the tunnel into the main arena and you see the whole presentation?
Oh, I'm looking at all the setup and the design. It looked to me like everything I'd ever seen on matches and stuff. So I'm sitting here like, I couldn't see any cameras anywhere, which bugged the shit out of me, because I'm just like, where are these goddamn cameras that are, that film this stuff? Because I can see the angle. We're almost sitting at an angle that the cameras seem to usually capture.
We were the hard cam side.
It was pretty sick. We
were 10 rows up. So on some of like the wide views that they pulled out on, you could see us if you took a screenshot and zoomed in and stuff.
Yeah,
but we were hard cam. So like they didn't have a whole lot of cameras that you could have seen. There was one that was like on a like their mobile cam. Then they have
I saw the guys with those.
Yeah,
no. I had a lot of fun, watching the announcers or people's, reaction off to the side and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagined to myself going down there and these people that are off to the side going, boo, fuck you, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I imagine, well, what if I ran down there and really tried, jumping over the thing and getting involved and get my ass beat and, pulled to the ground and whatever, or just trying to be part of the show. But then I realized, well, of course, everybody's had that thought, I'm sure, go through their head. Everybody in that
what? Never. Here,
I mean, even the guy in the green suit. Remember that idiot in the green suit that was
Yeah.
ringside. Like he was somewhat sort of,
So when
I imagined he was trying to get involved.
when you do that, you get like it's basically open season for you,
You
and
get your ass beat.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
the wrestlers just literally will beat your ass.
Well, good, because of course I wouldn't
They
do
don't want
something
to
like
encourage
that.
that.
I wouldn't do something like that because I'm not the kind of person that's I hate these people that are like, they go to things like that and they're like, look at me,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
get on stage and I'm gonna grab I'm gonna be the guy to go up and get a hug from Taylor Swift. Shut up. Nobody cares. Just get out of here. This isn't a hardcore show. Nobody wants you on stage. Just go.
I mean,
So-
there's definitely those type of people in pro wrestling fandom for sure, that think, that they can't separate the show from reality, and they think they're a wrestler too, and they start
yeah.
acting like it's very cringy. There's,
But I mean,
it's a fine line.
it gets you hyped up. You're there,
Yeah.
and that was like one of the things I thought about the most. Not like I actually
Yeah.
gonna go do it, but I'm surprised more people don't, I guess. But that's because you probably get your ass beat or banned for life or something.
Both.
Yeah, both. Yeah. Well, I think that, but I think you don't have to jump the rail to feel that excitement. Like that to me is the fun of going to these live events, because you are a part of the show as an audience member. The audience collectively is a cast member, I feel, and the script is essentially manipulating the audience to react the way the script writer would want them to react.
Yeah.
That's kind of the art of it, is to manipulate the audience reaction for their benefit.
Yeah. I had one tall boy beer, so naturally I had to pee 26 times. And every single time I'd go walk up the steps to pee, I'd be looking at people. I'm a people watcher, and
Of course. And what a place to do so.
every single person, man, everybody in that room had a smile on their face. And I thought that was cool. I've never been about too much into unity and brotherhood, especially with something like metal or something like that. I just, I get it, but whatever. But it's nice it was a nice change of pace, I guess, to see like everybody in the room like have almost like the same kind of look on their faces, like, they're all in on it. And I don't know. I think I was just, it's not that deep, and I need to tell myself it's just not.
Yeah,
that big
exactly. It's just
yeah.
it's mindless entertainment. And when I say mindless, I don't mean that insultingly. I just mean you could just shut your brain off. Like you don't have to worry about.
I can't do that.
Whatever.
I need
you need stimulation.
To turn my brain off. It's just constantly.
Right.
When I wake up in the morning, it's literally like a switch. Somebody flipped a switch and it's just. So yeah.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about the show. There was some hardcore stuff on the show. I don't know. Did you watch the entire event? I mean, it wasn't as crazy as the Japanese stuff for sure.
We had to bail, but how many events, how many matches were we there, Jim? Like,
Well,
6?
The full story is we basically did a ticket swap. So Jerry Lynn hooked us up. So thank you to Jerry and whoever from AEW for that. So he got about 5 of us in, Travis and 2 of the guys from the cattle side, and then a friend of mine. So Jerry's match, so I'll explain it to Travis too. So Jerry had the Jericho match, Rob. So Travis, what he does, he basically coaches and he gives the ideas for the spots, the timing of it,
he's the producer of the match.
Yeah, all the parts that are supposed to get you fired up, if you're showing, empathy towards whomever, whatever it is. So he was in charge of that. So I think that was like the 5th match on the bill. And then after that, we stayed for the Moxley match. And then the cattle guys, Travis and his guys had to go back. And then oddly enough, Jerry's like, hey, I'm going to the show. Like he didn't want to stick around or I shouldn't say that. He wanted to go to a show because like he was explaining later on, like he just wanted a break from work and go to a show. So he went about 30 minutes after we did and went to the show. And I, sat there.
So you had a show in Vegas?
Yeah.
That day?
Yeah. It was the last date of the tour.
Oh, I see. Oh, I didn't realize.
Then there was
I guess that
too.
explains why you're in Vegas.
Yeah. And I was like sitting there nervous and shit, knowing that I have to go up and headbang for an hour.
Yeah, you gotta go do your own wrestling performance in a little bit. Yeah,
And
so
that's
I
the
can
thing,
see how distracted you were. Why you were a little distracted. Yeah.
Back to what I was saying earlier about the death metal connotation or whatever. It's like something I was thinking about was like I'm up there, shredding my voice, shredding our necks, destroying probably discs in our neck. Even Jerry Lynn was talking about that, about how he had destroyed discs in his neck from just headbanging and stuff as a metalhead. And it made me realize, we are kind of just doing some sort of number on our bodies, vocalists, death metal vocalists, some of them might be giving themselves cancer. You don't know, or doing something where they could develop polyps or some sort of horrible thing, blow out their voice forever, or whatever it could be. And we're doing it for this art form that there's plenty of people on earth that would laugh at, especially the vocals. Fuck. But I mean, that's the number one thing that kept people away from death metal forever was the music's great, but those damn vocals. But here we are doing this to ourselves for the love of the art, for the sake of the art form. For that reason, I totally understand these wrestlers, at least, why they do it and stuff. It was something I was able to a common ground I could find, with, say, when talking with Jerry later on or whatever, or any wrestler. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's just a personality thing. I need things to be a starker distinction or contrast or whatever. What am I trying to say?
So if I'm gathering, you just weren't captured by the characters in the sense of just like what like how you're saying
at this show.
Yeah,
dude, I loved what's her name?
Oh.
Tori. Okay, so yeah, no, I mean
Tony Storm,
Timeless Tori.
Timeless Tony Storm.
Is that her name? Tony.
Yeah.
Tony Storm. Yes.
Tony Storm. Sorry, Timeless Tony
okay.
Storm. I liked her. I liked her shtick. I liked the 50s, pinup type, or whatever. Was it pinup or was it? She's either that or kind of like a
movie star from the Turner Classic Movies.
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect. Good example. I thought that was interesting and unique. I was texting my friend. She's a wrestler out in Australia, and it was really bizarre timing. I was like, "Hey, you'll be proud of me," and I sent her a video of me at this thing. And she's like, "Oh, Tony Storm is doing that one. She's a Australian. You should check her out." And then literally I look up and she's walking in and they got the thing playing up on the TV. And I'm like, well, she just walked in. I thought she was cool. Who was that guy that was talking all that shit? He just came out in like a jean jacket or something. And he was,
MJF.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need,
I kind of liked him.
Yeah. What would you think of the Tony Storm and that match, Rob? I think it went on pretty long, and it really grinded the pay-per-view down. It slowed it down. The crowd totally mellowed out. Nothing against the match, but they really had to come back up after that. And luckily, they had the spot that Travis is alluding to after that, because the crowd was pretty tired at that point.
I thought he was funny. I don't know, the stuff he said and the shit he talked, but he acted like a heel. Well, see, I know what a heel is, I think.
Yeah.
He acted like that, but everybody loved him. Everybody was like, woohoo, yeah, you are the best. I'm like, dude, this dude, he sucks, but it's funny,
That is kind of the time period we're in now, where if you're really good at being the heel, the bad guy, the crowd starts cheering for you because they like him.
If you're
we're
good
seeing
at
it. We're seeing it in metal.
I mean, right, yeah, or in politics even too.
I'm not saying
right?
his name. I fucking hate the dude.
Yeah, we don't have to start any blabbermouth drama on here.
They're all beefing on their own.
But yeah, so what are some other things that stood out that you found yourself engaged in? You said you liked Tony Storm, you liked MJF.
I liked the Japanese guy, Takashi. Shit, what was his name?
Oh, Takeshita.
Yeah,
And he faced John Moxley.
Yeah,
I thought he was cool. I liked his clothing or whatever. How it had this like sort of a samurai vibe to it, and
Yeah.
so I'm sitting there thinking about all sorts of other political, I guess, things in my mind. When he came out, I was like, I'm just looking around. I don't know. I took it all in, man. I was just. I
was gonna say you're pretty observant for someone who is not following it. You picked up on a lot of what they were trying to sell you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
as a professional T-shirt salesman, I'm used to it, I guess.
yeah, right. Exactly. You have great media literacy, higher than most.
Yeah.
I would. So it didn't take much. So, yeah, and to your point about the sacrificing the body, that to me is what I'm so fascinated about, is how they are so passionate about something that's really a hobby for a lot of people, where they go full bore in it and make their body contort in a way that honestly the body was not meant to be dropped 20 times a day.
And there's no guarantee that they're going to make it. There's no guarantee that they're going to be the Ultimate Warrior one day or whatever. You know what I mean? Or
right.
Or Jorb's Corpse Grinder or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. And what the balance is to me is, like, at what point do you say this body sacrifice is not worth my art? Because you will see clips from high schools with like 30 people in the audience and these wrestlers doing these death-defying stunts where it's like, this is not worth it. This is too real. Like, your body shouldn't be doing this, and you're not getting anything out of it. You're just going to get paid. You're going to get medical bills out of this.
Yeah. It's like they're all like a bunch of Ben Weinmans.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Destroying the shit out of their knees and still continuing to do it. It's bizarre.
One of the things that you can do, or, that when I first got into the music business, is you look to see where the bands from yesteryear are now, right? And you can do that with music, or really anything entertainment wise. So like Rob, what you're saying is those people that are performing in front of 20 people, and you saw people, 20 years ago, like Jake the Snake, doing those shows, and you see, you're never going to maintain your level of success. You're always going to come down, right, to whatever it is. So as big as you are, you're going to come down a little. Now, how high you're going to come down from, that's a different story, So you'll see a lot of those guys that were top of the game that are, they're back where they started out, and, their medical bills are, surpassed, what they can afford, and, the tragedy of professional wrestling. So, Travis, you've seen Dark Side of the Ring.
I love it. I love it. I mean, before I watched every damn one of those things before I ever stepped foot in an arena to watch the shit.
Yeah.
So
I love those things.
So knowing, I don't want to say the drama, but everything that's behind
context,
the curtain, did that make you interested more? Did it
absolutely because like I explained earlier,
so that guy that you're referring to in the jean jacket, like, he's coming off, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 surgeries or something. The guy that he leveled still has he's recovering from a broken ankle. So they're, like that whole, they work, even though you're injured. It's still, it's still there. Like, for example, like when you get sick on the road, you don't bail from shows, and so there's that sacrifice that they put in. I don't want to say it could make someone appreciate it more, maybe not get, like total fandom, but it could, make you appreciate it more. I'm not saying like you would want to go to it again, but I would say, like, if we went to like a smaller one where it is
that's
30
what I was
people,
going to suggest. Yeah.
And they have them in San Diego, but what we'll try and do is we'll try and get something in LA.
Tijuana or the Tijuana. I'd like to do also. I'd like to check out the Mexican wrestling at some point too.
Yeah, that's a whole different beast.
I know.
Yeah. But in the best way. Like, that's just pure pageantry, and it's very much about that. Yeah, that would be great.
I would totally. I mean, I'd love to go again. And yeah, you're right, Jim. Like, watching those things and learning more about it, it did make all of this way more interesting to me, because it made it real. I was that guy that always said this shit's not real, blah blah blah. Then that kid came out with it's still real to me, damn it. And all had a laugh at that, but the kid was right. They're destroying their bodies, and I see people, coming to our shows and stuff, thanking us for, the lyrics or the music or whatever, especially old guys my age.
Yeah.
That are like, I don't know how you do it. I don't, or I mean, I don't know how you still do it. And thank you for hanging in there and all that stuff. That matters. You know, it's important. It's the kind of stuff that's kept me going all these years. You know, just the love of the stuff and just the pure. It's in your blood. So these people didn't just wake up one day and go, "Oh, I'm gonna just do this." They got infected at some point, and it's been in their blood ever since. You know,
metal fans and wrestling fans, they're both outcasts for the most part. Maybe not so much now.
Not now. We died for their sins.
Yeah. So
we died for the sins of today.
I'll kayfabe this a lot, Rob. But there's a lot of wrestlers that you'll know of them too, but they got the popularity due to TikTok and Instagram and all this, and they get immediate TV time, and then they haven't put in the work. They haven't done that where they're, they're traveling everywhere, which bands right now in this day, and there's bands that started MySpace. They had never put together shows on their own. They just, they got slammed with popularity, and all of a sudden they have cash thrown their way. And it still happens now where they didn't have to put in work. They didn't have to do demos. They didn't have to hand out flyers at shows, whenever there was a metal show or whatever. So they didn't have to put in the work. And same thing with wrestlers. They didn't, these younger wrestlers, some of them don't have to do any of that. And you'll see it like when they're in ring, you can see the spots that they miss. They can see how they're just waiting for their big spot to put over the match or whatever it is. It's very evident. You can see who has put in the work and really kind of worked towards honing in their craft, whether it's you're a drummer and you practice your drums, or you work on your image for your band. If you have an image, right, you really put the effort into it. Same thing with wrestling, and so that separation of fans, from yesteryear and now, it's pretty clear.
So was Jerry a Cattle Decap fan? Did you guys talk about Cattle Decap?
Dude, I only know his name because shit, it was a long time ago. What year was that, Jim? 20? I keep thinking it's 2006 or 7 or so, but I think it was the late 2000s. All of a sudden one day I wake up to a bunch of MySpace messages, or maybe it was Facebook. Maybe it was that later on, but there was some like WrestleMania DVD or some sort of DVD that came out, and there was a bonus disc, I think, that had like interviews with, people, and Jerry Lynn was one of them. And for whatever reason, he was talking about, I'm really into this band Cattle Decapitation. And he was talking about us on this interview. So I got hit up. I wake up one day to fucking, I don't know, 10 or 15 messages from all different fans going, "Oh my God, holy shit, look at this." Oh, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Damn. They're like, you really need to capitalize on this somehow or some shit. And so that's the main reason why I knew who he was. Apparently the guy's been a fan for a long time. He's a metal fan. He showed up to our show in a 200 Stab Wound shirt. So he's also paying attention. That's how you know he's not just,
oh yeah,
he's not like, oh, ass fix or bust. No, he's like, he's paying attention to the new shit or what's going on, at least. Keeping up. That's a metalhead.
He was wearing Dying Fetus shirts in like 99. So
okay. So he was always he's been there. He's one of us, been there since the beginning.
No, that's so cool. That I love
awesome,
that crossover, because like we've been discussing, I feel like there's a lot of similarities and a lot of similar sacrifices. So it's always so exciting to me to learn of these things. And yeah, I know that Jerry Lynn has been a big metal guy for a while. So it's cool that you guys connected, and he came out to your show after as well.
Yeah. And then stayed the entire time. It was funny because I remember while we were playing, he was directly in front of me, like at the back by the sound booth, and I could actually pick him out or whatever. But he, stayed the whole time, and we hung out afterwards, and he shared war stories, and we took pictures, and some super sweetheart, down to earth guy. Yeah, which is what you find most of the time with metalheads or death metal guys or whatever, So been there, done that, and maybe not so much on tour. On tour, we all kind of end up being dicks sometimes.
You're a little cranky from the road.
Yeah,
right?
dude. The fuck, dude. You got no sleep. You're malnourished, no sleep, and there's maybe drama at home with somebody, or drama shit in the camp, on tour, all that kind of crap.
There's just no money, so the no money leads to the drama.
Or that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been very insightful. I have to say, I'm very happy that you took what you took away what you did from it. It wasn't just like.
And I would totally
being-
go again. I wanted to walk out a believer, like a total, like, or whatever. But
I'm in.
honestly, my mind was so taken up with the fact that I had to play that night. It was the last show.
Yeah.
And just not missing that and whatever else. It was just, I'm not one of those people that can just go and do a bunch of stuff during the day and then go play a show. I pace and I sit there and I stew, you know.
I understand. It took me just to do this podcast. I had to stew for 45 minutes beforehand, and this is just a Zoom call. I can only imagine a live in-person performance. You know, like it's a different beast.
I was happy to have done it, and you know, finally meet Jerry and stuff, and of course, hang out with Jim. He's my best friend. You know, we should probably say Jim is the guy that got Metal Blade or got assigned to Metal Blade actually.
Oh.
Cattle Decapitation. He's the one. He was working at the label at the time and brought us on, and you know, we've been friends ever since. And cool little anecdote or whatever. But the motherfucker's always been into. It's all he's ever talked about was wrestling and death metal and all the ins and outs and behind the scenes and stuff. And it's just funny. And toys, of course, GI Joe and Transformers.
Awesome. Well, Jim, thanks for making this happen, and it must have been pretty fun connecting Travis and Jerry together as well.
It you know, it was one of the rare times that things like that cross paths, because every time Cattle's out, I hit up Jerry, hey, any of these dates you think you can make, and you know they haven't really worked out ever, but for some reason, you know, on May 26th, whatever, it just worked out. And talked to Jerry. He's like, yeah, you know, my match is done early. And then, you know, Travis's TM, Matt. So, and thank you, Matt, too. He's a big wrestling guy. He was more than forthcoming to help out. I wanted to get other folks like, you know, Malachi Black and Brody King and, you know, like Darby and, you know, Eddie Kingston's wife is a big metalhead. So if she was out, you know, in Vegas, I wanted her to come out. So really just get as many people as we could, because it's hard to get into that world, you know, to get a foot in and stuff. And my whole wrestling journey started at the New Jersey Metal Fest in like 99. And I saw, you know, Harry Slash from ECW was there for whatever reason. And Travis, Harry Slash is the guy who wrote all like the entrance music and stuff for them. Awesome dude, terrific musician. And he gave me Jerry's phone number. He's like, yeah, reach out to Jerry Lynn, dude. Because I was telling Harry, what do I have to do to get music on ECW? What do I have to do? He's like, I have nothing to do with it, but here's who you can talk to. Jerry was, you know, obviously a huge fan of heavy metal, you know, and extreme stuff. Because I think at that point in time, he was coming at the Fear Factory or something, was his entrance music. So Jerry got me hooked up with like Balls Mahoney, who I became friends with until his passing. Oddly enough, Chris Jericho, before his WWF whatever debut, and he was not a big extreme metal guy at that point in time. So he was more into, you know, classic, straightforward, whatever. But after that, you know, I just stayed in touch with folks and, you know, always tried to get bands I was friends with, or even bands that I work with, into that world, because like the fans, they're kind of the same, you know. And I mean, look, if you listen for entrance music, right, Undertaker, you know, is probably the most ominous entrance music you can have. But fuck, I'll tell you what, when Eric Redbeard comes out and you hear Travis's fucking voice fill that arena, there's no mistaking it. And there's probably nothing out there that is scary as that. You know, and I, you know, that one October night that, you know, Travis and their sound guy Colin, you know, were bouncing all these ideas and put together. But fuck, man, when he came out, that was like a full circle. Like for me as a fan of both, you know, of Cattle and wrestling and Eric Redbeard. And so it was amazing. It was awesome.
Yeah.
They had to take out the vocals though, which was fine with me. I just, they, you know, because the lyrics or whatever, which is,
I see.
I'm sitting here going, come on, you can't understand the shit anyway, but because there's fucking words there, you know, that makes it a big publishing, probably weird scenario or some red tape.
They had your growl or your scream. They had that.
Yeah. It did start out with a or whatever, and that was super sick. That was the song "Finish Them" from Death Atlas. We were able to kind of Frankenstein, and then Eric Rowan came out to that. And now I own or Redbeard. Sorry,
Eric Rowan's in WWE.
Which is I have I have one of those action figures of Eric Rowan, or the Eric Rowan one. I was gonna put a cattle shirt on it.
Well, awesome, man. Well, thank you guys for both taking the time to hang out. This has been a really fun conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Rob.
The Cattle Decapitation album, your new album, Terracite. It's out now. If people want to listen to that, and I'm sure there'll be more touring in the future.
Yeah, there's not much the rest of this year, but we kick things back up next year. International stuff, a couple of international things this year, and then we're working on Europe. And we'll be back.
Cool. And Jim, any plugs?
Not really. I mean,
I got one. You know, okay. Jim. I do Twitch streaming or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I haven't done it in a minute because of the Terracite album cycle shit is kicked up like crazy. But I just did all my updates today, and going to be getting back to it. So, Jim and I and a couple other friends. It's just a Twitch stream, but it's more like a sort of like a podcast. Yeah, we're playing video games and stuff, but it's all about the funny conversations we get in or whatever. And Jim is goddamn hilarious. We've had some amazing moments on there. So if you want to check it out, just twitch.com/Travis Ryan Cattle Decap. Right?
Nice.
Or Cattle Decapitation. One of the two.
I don't remember.
It's
so long.
I'll just figure it out.
Yeah.
Search for it.
Yeah.
I'll look up the link and I'll put it in the description for sure.
I've always wanted to do a podcast, but this is the closest thing until we can actually eventually really sit down and do something. But
yeah,
I got an idea for one for if I ever retire, that'll be really good. But I won't spill the beans just yet.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for
Rob.
hanging out and entering the pit.